Chris Godinez, licensed professional counselor, also the host of We Need to Talk on every Sunday at noon. This video is for educational and informational purposes only. The views and opinions stated herein are mine and mine alone. They do not represent the ACA, the APA, or any other therapist for that matter. Boom, shakalaka done. I'd like to thank my sponsor, BetterHelp, BetterHelp, BetterHelp.com/Chris Godinez. They're an online therapy company. They're awesome. They're international. I've had great feedback. People are telling me they love their therapist that they got through there. So thank you. BetterHelp.com/Chris Godinez. Okay. Today's question is kind of a legal one, so I'll try to answer it the best I can. Will the narcissist be allowed to keep animals if we have audio and video of abuse? What recourse do we have if they defy judges' orders to visit the pets? So, okay, will they be allowed to keep the animals? They might. So what I tell people is abusers, well, fudge. There's so much to this. So courts do not view pets as pets. They view them as property, which is so stupid. So technically, an abuser could come in and demand the pet. They can say, well, it's property, it's mine, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. If you can establish that's your dog, in some cases, they'll let you keep it. Oftentimes, what I will tell clients when they tell me, hey, my abuser has been abusing the animals and this, that, and the other thing, I'm like, take them to a rescue, find a foster, let the fosters look after them, and then when you are settled, go get your dog and cat. So yeah, you could do that. They won't know what happened. They won't care. They really want to just cause you as much pain as possible. Seriously. So if you know your abuser is abusing the animals, you get them out of there. You get the animals out of there. Absolutely. You absolutely get your pets out of there. And you can just be like, oh, they're lost. Oh, I'm sorry. They're unethical and they force us to do things that are slightly unethical. But in this case, it saves the life of the animal. Now, the other thing that I've seen happen is that when the abuser knows that a pet is, particularly loved, they will take that dog or cat and take them to a kill shelter and surrender them and claim that, whatever. So you want to check with the shelters if your animal disappears. The other thing I've seen them do is just dump them by the side of the road somewhere between, out in the middle of nowhere, and of course this being a desert, that's not very cool. And there's like coyotes and stuff. So their abusers are heinous. You do not underestimate the depth of their depravity is what I'm trying to say. If you've got a pet that you are afraid that they are going to abuse, get the pet out of there. Just get the pet out of there. Get it to a foster, get it to a rescue, get it to a friend, get it to somebody who can hold that pet until you're out. Will the courts give them the dog or the cat? Yeah, they could. They absolutely could. Do you specifically have to say in your court order that you get the dog or the cat? Yeah, you do. You can't, no stone can be unturned is what I'm trying to say. The things that you wouldn't even think about. So like, when you're doing a custody battle, you have to think about right of first refusal. You have to think about, who gets the last say in medical. You have to think about, holidays, who gets what holiday when, you can't just do a not thorough divorce decree. When you're dealing with an abuser, it must cover every possibility, because I can guarantee you, if they can find a crack that they can, exploit and widen, they will. So what do you do if they come and visit the pet and use that as the excuse for contact? If you've got a court order and they're defying the court order, you call the police and you have the court order with you so that when the police show up, you can be like, hello, here is the court order. They are not to be anywhere near me. Like if you have a restraining order, they're not to be anywhere near me. Here's, this is what they did, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And again, it depends on the police officer you get. If you get a good one, they will take down the information. They will take down your evidence, your witness, blah, blah, blah. And then they'll, start proceedings to, have him served or do whatever, so, but you have to report every single time they violate the court order. Every single frickin' time. They do that. They thumb their nose at the justice system. They do, because they think they know better. They think they know better than judges. They think they know better than lawyers. They think they know better than everybody else because they're narcissists. They're idiots. They honestly think that they are above the law and that they never have or will have repercussions. So you do have to call the police every single time they violate a court order. If you have audio and video of abuse, you'd have to talk to your attorney. So sometimes audio and video is admitted, sometimes it's not. It depends on the judge. It depends on, are they abusing the animal? Are they abusing you? Are they abusing both? You know, it's really, you got to talk to an attorney on that one. I mean, I know a lot, but I don't know everything. So, and there's the difference between narcissists, because they will tell you that they know everything. So, yeah, and even in cases where you can prove abuse, sometimes the judge, if the judge is a narcissist themselves, will give the abuser the dog or the cat. Don't get me started. So, but the best thing to do, honestly, is you get the dog or the cat out of the situation before it even comes to court orders separating everything out, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You get them out, get them to a rescue. They would be better off with a foster family, and you may never see them again, but they would be better off in a foster family situation where they're loved and taken care of and fed and vets and everything else than the question mark of, is the abuser going to take my dog or my cat out into the desert and dump it, take it to a kill shelter, kill it themselves? They've been known to do that. So yeah, you just want to get the pet out of there before, you know, and this is, again, these are all the things you have to think about as you are leaving an abusive relationship. And that's why it is so, what's the word I'm looking for? It is so hard on the target of abuse, because you're struggling with your inner child, number one. Number two, you're struggling with maybe your own children, number two. Number three, you're now having to think about, you know, getting out safely and getting your pets out safely. So these are all things you have to think about. So honestly, my best advice on that one, my best thought on that is, if you think your abuser is abusing the animals or will abuse the animals, get them out. They don't need to know. Oh gosh, the gate was left open. Shoot, you know, you're going to have to be an actor on that one. But get the animals out of the abusive situation. That's the best thing to do. So get them to a foster so they're safe. Like I said, I've seen abusers do some pretty heinous things in that regards. They'll, you know, I belong to all these dog rescues and watch their, you know, missing dog thing. And often they'll be like, you know, highly contentious divorce. The spouse took the dogs. They're somewhere between Texas and Arizona. You know, I mean, they'll do things like that. So yeah, if you can see that the person is abusive and you're worried about your pets, get them out. Get them out before the abuser has a chance to do anything. That is the best advice. If you have already started divorce proceedings and they're using the pets as an excuse to violate, say, for example, an order of protection, then you call the police every single time. It's like, they do not have permission to be here. Here's my order, and they cannot be here. And then, though, you're going to have to really watch your animals. The other thing I've seen them do is that they'll go kill the animal when the other person's not at home. So it's dicey. You're dealing with psychopaths at that point. Anyone that would hurt an animal is pretty much a psychopath. There's no two ways about that, because animals are like little kids. They really are. They're helpless and they depend on us. And the only people that want to hurt them are people who are truly, to the core, evil. So you've got to judge your situation for yourself. Be careful. Look into rescues, look into foster situations. You may have to be an award-winning actor or actress. Oh gosh, the gate got left open. Shoot, don't know where they are, you know, so that the dog is safe or the cat is safe or whatever pet you happen to have. As for the other question, whether they'll accept audio and video of abuse, it depends. So talk to a lawyer. That would be my best bet. So, all right, guys, I hope that answered the question. On Sunday, we're going to talk about emotions. All the emotions. All the emotions are okay. How to identify your emotions. What to do with your emotions. You know, how to make friends with your emotions. So we're going to talk about that on Sunday. All right, you guys, have a great week. Excuse me. And I will talk to you later. Bye.